went over this in my last video. You can go over here and watch this footage of a horizontal lunar eclipse from December 2011, which shows the moon disappearing when the sun's coming up. Now look here. Your model claims that it's going into the shadow when it begins to disappear, right? Now, if you just go to mooncalc.org and search for that date, they claim at 2 a.m. the moon is at 100% full. Okay? That's what they claim. So this whole time that this footage is shown, the moon is already full, but it defies your model. See, only lies contradict themselves. The truth is always congruent. Let's take a look at this little cartoon image, right? And what I want you to notice is the symmetry of the shadow or the bite or darkened area out of the disk of the moon or sun. Okay, from the north of the line of totality to the south of the line of totality. This is what people in the truth community call truth in plain sight. It's symmetrical, okay? So this one from here would see the same as someone down here when it's in this spot, okay? And it'll change as it goes over. But right when you get at the height of totality, it's completely symmetrical, okay? But what an unastute ball earth believer would just say, well, the reason you see that is the curve of the earth. But the astute ball earther would probably say something like it's parallax. That's what causes it. And when you get to the center line of totality, you can see the symmetry that NASA depicts in their cartoon, right? Not exactly, they don't show it like they did in the other photo. But if you were stationed here just north of the center line of totality, and remember the shadow of totality was only 70 miles wide for this event. So if you were less than 100 miles apart, you would be able to see the complete opposite. So the bite of the disk of the sun would be on opposite sides as it's depicted in this cartoon. And what you'll hear them describe all this, you'll never hear them explain how that can happen. And I've shown astute curveballers this when they tried to draw this up in a model of AutoCAD, but they depicted it from 20 miles above the equator. And I'm like, yeah, it should only occur between the tropics where the sun is actually traveling. And we know this because here, this asterisk denotes where the sun is at the time this actually happens. See, the center line of the shadow is way up here, but the sun straight on is down here. Now, everyone that looked and observed the total eclipse was facing south to see it. So we shouldn't have seen this type of symmetry on the bite, if you understand what I'm saying. Let me see if I can explain what I mean a little better. They claim the sun was right here when the greatest eclipse occurred, right? So when it appeared here, it was really here. And the very fact that either you're north or south, everyone faced south to see it, proves that fact. But parallax can't be true because of the symmetrical nature of the observation. If you were just north of the center line of totality and took a picture, and at that very same time, the person just south of the totality, less than 100 miles apart, took another picture. It was symmetrical, meaning the bite was on the opposite limb of the disk of the sun from each person. That would denote the center line being where it was actually at, but we know that's not true. So how did that occur? It should be, given the geometry of the ball, never symmetrical. This side should have a bigger piece of the disk visible than this side, right? And vice versa. If the sun was really up here, if everyone faced the opposite direction, the opposite would be true. Okay, real science is repeatable, testable observations. not a mathematical expression that can correlate to a phony fake model. If you make observations that can contradict your model, then your model is false. These are facts. If you can repeat the observations, and you can, like I said, and I want to show you this little point here. So if we go to what I saw today, May 14th around 9 p.m., I went to MoonCalc. I've set the time and my location, as you can see there, and shows you the time of everything, the supposed distance of the moon, all that jazz. But I won't argue with the rise and set. That's usually confirmed by multiple trusted sources, and they all correlate. Now here I will argue, because that's not what I saw. Okay, it was in a northwestern position at that time there when I saw it, but it looked exactly like this here. So that being said, let's move on to the point. If you take this children's animation of how they explain our model works, okay, I'm not going to bore you with it. Those of you that don't know, they claim it's always full. It's only its perspective to us as it rotates around us that make it appear to be at different phases. This contradicts exactly what Jesus said. The moon gives its own light. The Bible says he uses the simple things to confound the wise. What could be more simple than the moon giving its own light? But here they want to be crafty and tell us, no, look, when it rotates around us, it gets bigger and you see more of it. Oh, yes, of course. But look right here. They put these phases of the moon in a night sky, which should not occur if their model is correct. But they know you see this, so they want to show it to you. You know, as a child, you'd see that. Well, yeah, I do see it in the stars, but you shouldn't. If what they claim is true, these phases, anything less than half of a full, or what do you call it, gibbous moon, should only be observed in the daylight sky. But yet you'll see it right here in Denver, Colorado tonight. I saw something I should not see. These phases should only be visible in the daylight, not at night. Only things bigger than a half moon, all of this, right? And only after sunset should you see the full moon rise. They'll claim, oh, you see that, but it's really not full. It's only 98% or 99.5 if you see it up with the sun, because it belies their model. We have to be diligent when we talk about these things, folks.
So, back to Lincoln. What will we see here? Starting at about 11:37 a.m., the moon will begin taking a bite out of the sun. The partial eclipse begins. The bite keeps getting bigger and bigger. A little past 1:02 p.m., the last of the sun disappears behind the moon. The last light of the sun, shining between two mountains or a crater rim on the moon, slowly vanishes.
They will go into great detail about Bailey's beads or balls, craters, and all these things that they force feed you to try to make you believe it's the moon. We know everything that we're talking about. See, you've got this diamond ring effect. Well, if that's true, then how come when you're viewing it from here, the diamond ring effect's on this side? Viewing it from here, it's up here on the north. It wouldn't be. If it's a crater causing the Bailey's beads, then it would be only on one certain position of the moon. It wouldn't be all over, depending on your perspective. They show what you're going to see if you're standing here. They show what you see if you stand here, but they don't explain none of it. It doesn't make sense. How could the bite out of the sun come on this side and then the shadow be over here? Things that doesn't fit their storyline, they won't talk about. They'll show it to you, but then won't even go into detail about it because they can't make it fit their story.
That's called the diamond ring effect. When it completely disappears, that's your signal that you can look directly at the eclipse with no protection for your eyes.
This here is irrefutable proof, folks, that we've been lied to about the solar eclipse. On the right-hand side, you can see it says 4 times speed Omaha, and here in the main it says Beatrice time lapse, 4 miles south of Crete, I believe. Look at this. It's coming from the opposite. You see that? Omaha, it's coming from the southwest. Beatrice, it's coming from the northeast. The shadow on the face of the sun. This contradicts what they tell you. They won't mention this. They won't talk about how that happens because it doesn't fit the lie they are trying to get us all to believe. This is the center line. This is just south of the center line of totality. And this is north of the line of totality.